Perpetual boredom has been one of the keys to success for many people in history, and I'm going to explain it to you in a few minutes. But first things first, phones as we know them today were invented in the early 2000s, and our lives as human beings have never been the same since. In the past, we had different tools for different needs: a flashlight for light, a camera for pictures and videos, a phone to call people, and even libraries to go and look for information. Now we have all of these things in our pocket. At first glance, this sounds like progress. Everything is easier, faster, and more convenient. You can learn anything, contact anyone, and entertain yourself instantly. A few taps and the world opens in front of you. Yet something strange happened along the way. The moment we gained the ability to access everything instantly, we slowly lost the ability to sit with nothing. Waiting in line used to mean staring into space. Riding the bus meant looking out the window. Sitting alone at home meant letting your mind wander. Today, those small empty moments rarely exist. The second boredom appears, the hand reaches for the phone almost automatically. Scroll, tap, refresh, another video, another post, another notification. The brain receives a constant stream of stimulation. At first, this feels harmless. After all, you're just filling time, just relaxing, just checking something quickly. But the brain doesn't experience it that way. Your brain begins to adapt to constant novelty. Every few seconds, something new appears. A new face, a new joke, a new headline, a new clip. Dopamine spikes repeatedly, training the mind to expect stimulation all the time. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Stillness feels wrong. Moments without stimulation begin to feel like wasted time. And that is where the real problem begins. Because throughout history, many of the greatest ideas, discoveries, and creations did not come from constant stimulation. They came from boredom, from quiet, from long stretches of time where the mind had nothing to consume, so it was forced to create. When the brain isn't busy absorbing information, it begins to connect ideas. Memories resurface, questions appear, curiosity wakes up. That empty mental space becomes a laboratory for thought. But if every second of your day is filled with scrolling, your brain never enters that state. And slowly, without realizing it, you lose access to one of the most powerful mental tools human beings have ever had: the ability to sit in boredom and let your mind wander. For most of human history, boredom was unavoidable. There were long walks with nothing to listen to, long evenings with no glowing screens, hours spent doing repetitive tasks where the mind had nowhere to escape. During those moments, something interesting happened inside the brain. It started to wander. At first, random thoughts appeared, memories from years ago, questions with no immediate answer, half-formed ideas floating around without structure. Then connections started forming. The brain began linking things together in ways that normally wouldn't happen during busy moments. Problems slowly untangled themselves. Creative ideas appeared from nowhere. This mental state is known today as the default mode network. It activates when the brain is not focused on an external task. Ironically, some of the most productive thinking happens when you are technically doing nothing. Many inventors, writers, and entrepreneurs throughout history relied heavily on this state. Long walks were famous among thinkers for this exact reason. Walking without distraction allowed the brain to drift, reorganize information, and generate ideas. Some people solved complex problems while showering, others during quiet train rides, or while staring out a window. None of those environments were filled with constant stimulation. The mind had room to breathe. Now compare that with the modern routine. Wake up, check notifications, watch short videos, scroll during breakfast, check messages again. Listen to something while walking, scroll during lunch, scroll during breaks, scroll before sleeping. There is almost no empty space left. Every spare second becomes filled with digital noise. The brain never gets the signal that it's time to wander, and when the mind stops wandering, creativity slowly begins to shrink. Problem solving becomes harder, deep thinking becomes uncomfortable. Even reading a long article or watching a thoughtful video starts to feel difficult because the brain has been trained to expect stimulation every few seconds. This is why many people today say they want to start a project, build a business, write something meaningful, or learn a complex skill. But when they sit down to focus, their mind feels restless. The silence feels heavy. The urge to check the phone becomes overwhelming. Not because they lack discipline, but because their brain has been conditioned to escape boredom immediately. And without boredom, the brain loses the very environment where deep thinking is born. This doesn't mean phones are the enemy. They are some of the most powerful tools ever created. You can learn new skills, connect with people across the world, start businesses, and access knowledge that previous generations could only dream about. The problem isn't the phone itself. The problem is never putting it down. When every quiet moment is filled with scrolling, your brain never gets the chance to reset. It stays trapped in a loop of short bursts of stimulation that feels satisfying in the moment but leave very little behind. Nothing sticks. Hours pass and you struggle to remember what you even watched. Now imagine something different. You wake up and resist the urge to check your phone immediately. Instead of filling the first minutes of the day with notifications, you give your mind a little silence. At first it feels strange. Your brain looks for something to consume. It expects a video, a message, or some form of instant entertainment. But if you sit with that silence for a few minutes, something subtle begins to happen. Thoughts appear, ideas start forming, questions come to the surface. You begin thinking about things you normally push away with constant stimulation. Maybe a project you've been delaying, maybe a problem you need to solve, maybe a goal you've been avoiding because it requires effort and focus. Boredom slowly turns into clarity. This is the hidden power of boredom. It forces your mind to face itself. And that is often where the most valuable thoughts live. Some of the most successful people protect moments of boredom on purpose. They walk without headphones. They sit without opening apps. They allow their mind to drift instead of constantly feeding it new information. Those empty moments become thinking time, and thinking time becomes progress. Most people today are drowning in content but starving for original thought. If you want to separate yourself, you don't necessarily need more information, you need more silence. So the next time you feel bored and your hand reaches automatically for your phone, pause for a second. Let the boredom stay, because the moment your brain stops consuming, it finally starts creating.